So, hey man, so I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things here. First of all, so you're a business owner, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, like, we had an interesting conversation recently um, about minimum wage and what you feel like the position that you're in as far as a business owner having to deal with a possible raise to a minimum wage, right?
Right.
So I just want to kind of give a little bit. First of all, I want to give a little bit of background about let's about what where your business is at and like what you do and how many employees you have and what you think about the minimum wage and the situation that the economy's in.
Well, I'm in a unique position. I own three businesses, technically four, but I also am part of the workforce because I also have side jobs where I'm not the boss. So, um, my main business is an indoor dog park daycare boarding facility here in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I have about 20, it fluctuates between 20 and 25 employees on the payroll at a time, usually closer to 25. Um, uh, Minimum wage. With where I'm at, I'm in a unique standpoint because I see it from both sides. As a boss, as a business owner, it is hard. Um, I want to sit here and say no, don't hike up minimum wage, but at the same time, I am very empathetic to my employees, so I do want to bump up our minimum wage. In fact, we just bumped up our minimum wage to 15, close to 15 here at my business.
Oh, nice.
Um, but at the other hand, being in the workforce, I'm all for upping the minimum wage because that means I get more money for the work that I'm doing. Um, so yeah, I see both sides of it, and so it just depends on where I am during the day, where my leanings lie.
Sure. So I know that like it makes it hard for you. So as far as paying your employees and stuff like that, because I know you, I know you're a good guy, and I know you like to that you'd like to pay people more for their work. Like you prosper, they prosper, everybody prospers, that sort of thing. But it makes it hard because of the situation of if you do that, the cost of running your business gets hit, and then you might have to close, and then they lose their job anyway. So that kind of right where I'm coming from in your point of view.
Right. So a little background. When we were starting this business, minimum wage here in Nebraska was 7.25, and we had decided that we were going to start off at $10 an hour. So that was our business plan. That's what we took to the banks. That's what we got the $2.5 million loan on in order to start our business. Um, by the time we opened, it took us about 3 years to open. Minimum wage was now 9 or 9.25, whatever it is now.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, we were paying maybe a dollar over minimum wage. Um, and then, sorry, excuse me. Of course, with the change in society, especially since 2020, we've seen the call to change uh, our wages even more. The issue we had, and I've had this discussion with people before, and you've got both spectrums. Obviously, you've got the people that
Mm-hmm.
understand, the people that are like, well, you should still do it, and then you have the people that say, well, if you can't pay this, then you shouldn't be open anyway. I was running numbers in order to prepare for this interview. Um, for me, for our bump from $10 to $15 an hour for our employees is costing us an extra quarter million, extra 250,000 a year in payroll.
That's push you in a place where you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna make it for the next year, right?
Well, fortunately, thank you to everyone here in Lincoln and Omaha and the surrounding areas. We're at a point that we can. 2021 was actually our first profitable year, which is why we felt comfortable after 2021 going, all right, we can bump our employees up to a more living wage. Because it was like I said, I'm very empathetic. I listen to my employees, and some of them had concerns that they had moved in somewhere, then all of a sudden their roommate backed out, so now they were having to pay the entire rent, and they couldn't do it off of 12 or 13 for some of my employees and everything. So it was one of those that we crunched numbers, we worked really hard, and thankful for the community for supporting the business so much that we were able to make the bump up for them.
Yeah. So, what do you think? What do you think that we need to do in society to kind of fix the problems with the economy and the situations that we're in, as far as for business owners, like for somebody like that's starting out, maybe doesn't have a a nest egg or whatever to start a business, but they want to do something different because working paycheck to paycheck doesn't work, obviously, for a lot of
Right.
people. Like, what do you think that will get the economy back to a place where somebody can take that risk, you know?
um Honestly, I wish I knew. um and this is where and you know me, I sit on the fence on things, and depends on what subject we're talking about which way I lean.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where a lot of my conservative leaning comes in, where the government just needs to get out of it. I don't think we should have a minimum wage on a federal level. I think we should have a minimum wage on a state level, because the cost of living here isn't nearly what it is like in California.
Mm-hmm.
In California, you get paid $26 an hour, and you're barely scraping by it on a livable wage out there. And that was, I think, 2017. That poll was taken. So it's one of those. I'm sure it's up to 30 or $35 an hour. But you pay out here, and I don't, I think it was right around $15 or $16 an hour when that poll was done.
Mm-hmm.
um if you change it to 15 across the nation, here in the Midwest states, would people be able to, be more on a living wage, be able to afford things better? Absolutely. But the problem is the big, states, the big cities would go, oh, well, this is all we have to pay you is $15 an hour. So therefore, living in San Diego, when I was living there, I had a one bedroom apartment, which was $2,800 a month for 900 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
you know, $15 a month wouldn't pay for that. I was working at Men's Warehouse out there. I was DJing on the side. I was doing weddings on the side. So I paid for everything in the long run, but I was working three jobs essentially to do it.
Sure.
Um, so it's I think the problem is with the central government saying, look, this is what it is. I understand the need for it before, when companies refuse to do so. I think we're moving towards more of a society mindset as a whole, that, look, we need to take care of our employees. We need to take care of those of the lower class. We need to bring them up. As we bring them up, there's more money to spend.
Sure.
Um, so I think it needs to leave a federal level and go to a state level where it can be more influenced by those that live in the state. I'm just afraid that these massive corporations are still going to abuse the power of saying, "Oh, well, we're up to $15 an hour. That's what we're going to pay you. You wanted 15, we gave you 15. We don't care if it's still 10,
Mm-hmm.
$15 short what you need, because we're just paying. You wanted 15, so we're going to give you 15."
Yeah, I think in theory that sounds like a good idea, because the cost of living is different in different places, like you said, and stuff like that. My concern, though, is that the people that we have in power are not necessarily concerned with the success of the working class necessarily. Like that they're more concerned with making their donors happy, things like that.
And
And
that's why I'm a big proponent of term limits on everyone.
yeah, yeah.
When the nation was founded, politician wasn't meant to be a career. It was, you either served 4 or 8 years, and you went back to the company you ran. You went back to being a lawyer or a farmer or whatever you were before you
Hmm.
became a politician, and that eliminated big companies, big oil, pharma, All these other companies having their fingers and their hands in your pocket, going, "Hey, a little nudge here, just a little nudge here,"
Hmm.
because that would eliminate. Because it's, well, no, I'm not going to do what you want. Well, we're not going to get you reelected. Well,
Yeah.
forget it. I was out in four more months anyway. So what's the big deal?
Right, but like, and I think even in those situations, there'd still be like cash grabs. Like people would try to make as much money as possible while they could, and then get a job as a lobbyist afterwards. Stuff like that. So that's a lot of where my concern is as far as that's concerned, and also with people like with the minimum wage. What I would like to see, first of all, I don't know if you're familiar with UBI at all,
No.
universal basic income. So if we gave everybody to a certain amount of a stipend, each month to kind of from the government directly to supplement their income so that they can take more risks in their business life and stuff like that, which would be a good, I guess, starter for how we could fix things. But I do think uh, that there should be kind of maybe some outside sources from elected officials that kind of like regulate where the minimum wage sits for people. For instance, like in this state, I think it's somewhere around like a living wage, which means that all your bills are taken care of and you have money for a vacation a year, something along those lines, right? Would be about $17 to $18 an hour, depending on what area you live in.
Right.
And yet the minimum wage here is what, nine
Nine or
fifty?
9.25.
Yeah,
Yeah.
9 or 9.25. So that's almost half of what you need in order to do that. And a lot of people make the argument that it's minimum wage jobs are for kids, for like college students, and for people who are like still living with family and stuff like that. But if you look at the statistics, it shows that about 48% of the people that work minimum wage jobs are supporting a two child household, and so it's really, we can't rely on the fact that those jobs are just going to be for those people anymore. And then I think that people are kind of starting to wake up to that. I don't know where you rely on unions or not, but
Um, I'm fine with them.
yeah, but I see a lot of people that are starting. There's a lot more union people trying to get into unions, and there's a lot more strikes, things like that. And there's also a lot more people that are denying those minimum wage jobs, which is why you go through every Burger King in town and you see a help wanted sign in the window, because you don't see those, the people are less likely to take those jobs because I don't know what it, and do you can you give me an idea? Do you have any idea where that comes from? Because what for me, I think it's just like they got a little taste from of not only the danger from the pandemic, but also the fact that they were helped along the way to get out of that. And
I think it's partially that. I also think it's the historical treatment that a lot of like fast food places do. Fast food places. I've worked numerous of them. Throughout the years. Uh, I think four different companies. It was, you show up, do all this stuff, for minimum wage, maybe a dollar or two more. But in the end, you're replaceable. In the end, you're replaceable. Someone else will come in, they'll take your job, and it's whatever. We're just going to work you until you can't work anymore, and then we're going to kick you out. And historically, that's how it's been. You bring up Burger King. The one on the north side of Lincoln here went viral with their we all quit. We walked out,
mhm,
and and I don't know if any of the allegations that the employees brought up, but apparently the AC had been broken for months, and it was sitting 90 degrees in their kitchen. But the managers and the owner of that franchise expected them to still work in it.
mhm,
As a business owner, I understand. I have problems with my HVAC. Sometimes it can take a few weeks, for a product or something to get in for to fix. But, if it's been months, and so it's the uh, historic treatment that they faced,
mhm,
which is one of the reasons I wanted to get out of fast food. I jumped to a couple different fast food places, and I wanted out of it. Um,
And let's be honest, nobody should eat that shit anyways.
oh,
It's
right,
awful for you.
exactly. Man, trust me, I've got that COVID belly going on, which is my
And
goal
and you're
this
and
year to
you're
get
really
rid of.
into health too. I mean, I've seen
Yeah,
you like cosplay Kratos before. I mean,
right.
you've been ripped, but like I think that all affected all of us a little bit, you know.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, it was, because everything shut down, I was able to keep my business open during COVID because we were considered essential. But because everyone else was staying home, I didn't have to worry about, they didn't have to worry about daycare. So I went from end of 19, early 20, I was at, I don't know, 40, 60 dogs a day on average. And then COVID hit and we dropped down to 5 or 10 dogs a day.
Hmm.
So we took a pretty big hit, and then us owners didn't take a paycheck for quite a while in order to make sure our employees could be paid
Hmm.
throughout that. And while I sit here and say, I don't like huge government, I don't like all the handouts they do. Thank God for the handouts they were doing. Thank God for the PPP that they were giving out, because that's what kept us afloat. And then come 2021, people were like, all right, we're done with COVID. Even though it's not over,
Yeah.
we're bringing our pets to you because we got to get back to work, or all the COVID puppies.
Yeah.
So,
So do you think like in that statement that there's like you think there's a time for government to step in, obviously.
absolutely. I think there is. I think our government currently tries to overstep some of its bounds. And this goes on both political sides of the aisle. There, I'm not just picking on the left. It's there's a lot of government bailouts. Of large corporations, of all these programs. I think we can lessen welfare and that type of thing if we would bring up the minimum wage. If we could get people to that living wage, I
Hmm.
think we could ease back on welfare.
Well, and to be
And that's
fair, like that, like welfare is kind of a joke in this country as is, right?
right.
Like
Yeah,
I mean, there's that line, right, where you go from poverty to being over what they consider poverty, and then you
right.
just get knocked right back down again because you don't have that assistance, right?
Right. Well, and so the people on the right sit here and say, "Oh, well, we need to cut welfare, but we need to lessen it, but we also don't want to increase wages." And I'm going, "But if you increase wages, wouldn't that help people get off of welfare? So therefore, the welfare budget would eventually lessen itself, because people are able to pay for themselves essentially rather than relying on the government." But going back to the minimum wage, my only concern is where does it stop?
Hmm.
Um, so I'm sure you saw it in November. There was a viral thing going out about McDonald's, where hey, don't eat at McDonald's. Strike against McDonald's until we get $25 an hour as employees.
Hmm.
Do you really need $25 working at McDonald's? I understand almost half of them are, trying to support families and everything, but the issue is where does that take everyone else's job?
Hmm.
Because it's one of those, it's like they got 15. All right, we got 15, but now we want 25. Well, what was when they get 25? Well, now we want 30. We want 35 an hour. And I see a problem developing with that, because it's going to skyrocket everything down the line.
You think it's like
Um,
bottom up greed instead of top down kind of thing?
right. So it's one of those. I understand that. All right, the minimum wage workers, at the fast food, the low skill jobs, if they get their bump ups, everyone else is going to have to get bumped up. Great, grand, wonderful. But what happens when the I'm trying to figure out the right words without being insulting, but what happens with the lower echelon when they're not happy with what they have and they keep demanding more?
Sure.
Where does that stop? Because I've had to increase prices, um, uh, because I bumped all my employees up, and everyone understands. Really haven't had any pushback from it, but where if all of a sudden I have to bump them up $20 an hour, so I have to do another big, $5-10 on a service bump up next year. And what happens
Hmm.
if I have to do it again next year? So it's the price of services and the price of goods are going to go up, but where do they stop if we keep having to increase our payroll? At least in my industry with the pet industry, the pet daycare and boarding, literally 50% of our expenses is literally payroll.
Hmm.
So the more my payroll goes up, the more I have to charge my clients for being able to provide that wage to them.
Okay. Well, yeah, just two things. Like, I mean, a little bit of pushback there, but like, I kind of understand where you're coming from. But like, so the difference between your business per se and McDonald's is astronomical as far as how much money
Oh,
you
oh,
make. You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely,
so
yes.
there's a big difference there. So what I think we had talked about this before. Like, what would be like a kind of a happy medium there, and by like the amount of employees or the amount of revenue that a business brings in a year, maybe like scaling the minimum wage based upon that sort of thing, rather than like the individual or like a state by state basis. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Uh, yes, the only issue I find with that though is us mom and pop stores
mm-hmm,
suffer from that then, because McDonald, billion-dollar conglomerate, all this, they can afford 25-30 dollars an hour. Why would you come work for me when I'm one store at the moment, and can only, according to my revenue and everything, I only have to pay you $13 an
mm-hmm.
hour. Why would you come work for me then?
Yeah, I do see that, but there's there's other things that I was kind of thinking of, like, again, with that supplemental income, as far as that's considered, maybe work out something where there's a supplemental income for those smaller businesses, to where if you do decide to work for that business, they will take you up to at least the minimum wage of that through the government or whatnot. That might be something that we could look into in the future. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy to implement by any means. And
Yeah.
yeah, and then also, like, as far as like minimum wage is concerned going up, I think that I've never seen it go directly from. Now, see, this is what's weird. Okay, so I've never seen the minimum wage being mandated and going up to that right away. Like, it
Right.
usually, like, is a gradual thing.
Usually $1 a year. Yep.
But I've seen, because of the economy and the way it is, you see jobs that, like, for instance, I work at a grocery store right now in the wine and spirits department, and that job pre-COVID would have gotten you $9 an hour. They started me out at 14.50 when I started working there, and that's simply because the demand for that wage was almost it didn't have to be mandated by the law. It was something that was being socially mandated, so they automatically had to do it in order to get employees to come there. So and I don't know what that says about um, the free market, or if things kind of fix themselves or whatnot. Uh, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think there were other factors that were involved in it, but it's definitely interesting to see that happen without there being a mandate in the state for it. Because right now it's still 9.25, but I don't know too many jobs in our state right now that even will
Well, it's it,
pay.
it's the ones that are closed down 3 or 4 days a week and only open on the weekends because that's when they have clients coming in,
Mm-hmm.
or um, so yeah, it's because I'm all for increasing the minimum wage. I Like I said, I really think it should be state to state, and then we the people, make sure we get the right people elected. The last three elections, 1, 2, 3, yeah, basically three elections, like it's been record number turnout of young voters.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we would be able to get the right ones in, that would be able to push towards a more living wage rather than just a minimum wage.
Yeah.
But my big concern is everyone focuses on the huge corporations. These small businesses tend to get overlooked. And what you could be doing is forcing a lot of the local businesses to shut down with this. And because there's always the worry that, hey, if I jack my prices up, people are going to go elsewhere. Especially the mom and pop grocery store on that everyone wants to support. Well, all of a sudden their hamburger is $2 or $3 more expensive than Walmart. People are going to make that extra drive to Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden you start losing out on your local businesses and supporting them. um,
Yeah,
So
and it
I'm
seems
not
like
sure what needs to be done, but that needs to be on everyone's radar, because everyone focuses on these massive multi-million, multi-billion, multi-trillion dollar corporations. But it's the mom and pop store where, yeah, they're business owners, but maybe they only take 30,000 home, a year. They're not all that far above the poverty line themselves.
mhm.
They're just a business owner.
Yeah, and it seems like there needs to be some sort of like um combination of systemic changes and personal responsibility within our culture to recognize things like that and make a conscious effort to maybe spend a few cents more to go to a mom and pop store, or something like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And like a lot of people don't think of it, and there's campaigns of people say that buy local, buy support local and stuff like that. And people, I know a lot of people who spout that, but then they'll go shop at Walmart.
Right, exactly.
It's
Walmart parking lots are still packed full.
right.
Target, everything.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so, like, what I'm thinking is, like, and a lot of that is a systemic issue where people have to. I mean, people feel like they have to shop at Walmart because there's no choice for like they're pinching pennies and stuff like that. That's
Right.
that's what they're gonna do.
Hmm.
But so I think that it's like a catch-22 in that situation where
Absolutely.
there's a lot of people who want to do the right thing, but they feel like they can't because. And Walmart's a crazy animal, man. I don't know if you knew this, but like if it weren't for China, like Walmart would not be a
Absolutely. Yeah.
fucking thing, because like they
Yep.
basically like China wanted to look for a place to sell their cheap ass imports, and they got a hold of the Walton family, and then it spread like wildfire. Now they're
Yep.
they're the biggest employer in the United States. Walmart
Right.
is.
Yep.
So, and that's all I always found that interesting because like a lot of people who support those big businesses and stuff are like against like completely against China too. It's like you're fighting against your own interests. People don't,
Right.
and that's a lot of what America is. It seems like these days it's like um, people vote against their own interests. They do things that are against their own interests politically and socially and all kinds of things. So it's kind of a weird place that we're in, and that's kind of the part or the reason for this channel. That's why I called it Vertigo Veritas, was because I wanted to kind of bring some truth to the all the confusion, like kind of find
Right.
like a direction and like a headlights to go
Yeah.
forward and all the confusion because it really is. It's hard to sift through, especially the economy, and figure out who's lying to you and who's telling the truth. Like for instance, I don't know how much you know about the big Build Back Better plan or any of that
Uh,
stuff.
some of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So like if you go into if a lot of people don't like Joe Biden, so they're like, oh, it's Joe Biden's plan. They're automatically no, no, no. But then they hear the individual uh like mandates in the legislation, the individual parts of the legislation like child tax credit and paid family leave, stuff like that. And most of those things in there uh are highly, like extremely popular with not only Republicans but Democrats. But because we're my side versus your siding everything, we don't see that, and people will vote against their own
and
interests.
and I think that's the problem with our society right now. It's a us versus them, and you and I have had this discussion before, in person and on Facebook. It's us versus them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a far leaning Democrat, so therefore Democrats have to be against me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also not a far right leaning Republican, so therefore the Republicans are against me. The issue I found is, I'm old. So it's in the last 15 years or so. Um, 20, 25 years ago, people didn't know what political affiliation you were, and we didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
And then also in the past 15, it's party lines. Like, if you're a liberal, I can't be friends with you, much less date you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's insane how polarized our country has become. And so because of that polarization, all people do is vote party lines, and they don't vote the issues anymore.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's the MAGA people with Trump. They voted for Trump because it was Trump. He was
Mm-hmm.
Republican. We can't have Hillary win. We got to have Trump win.
Mm-hmm.
When there were a lot better
Not to
options
say
than those
Hillary was
two.
much better,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
yeah, but
It's, am I glad we got Trump in? Absolutely. Because I'm afraid that if we had Hillary in, we'd be in World War III right now, because she wanted to meet Russia head on,
mm-hmm.
Air Force, tactical air advantage, when Russia was starting, their
Yeah.
campaign. It's like, wait, I'm sorry, what? Now, I'm not saying Trump was any better. But there were a lot better options in
Mm-hmm.
the third parties that no one pays attention to.
Right.
When I vote. I do extensive, checks on what are their views, what are their actual views, because every politician lies, left, right, center. They all lie. They do whatever they need to do to win.
Mm-hmm.
Just like big corporations, whatever they have to do to get ahead, they're going to do it. Corporate espionage, sending stuff to China, keeping people at minimum wage so they can increase their profit margins. Everyone does. Unfortunately, it's human nature to do what you need to do to win.
Mm-hmm.
It's about me. It's about my livelihood, and then if I have something afterwards, I'll take care of everyone else around me. And that's the problem with our society right now, is that it's an us versus them.
Mm-hmm.
I can't listen to you, even though there's great points on both sides. If people would come back together and listen again, we could jump our society light years ahead.
Well, yeah.
But it's the political divide that happened about 15 years ago or so, that it's just astronomical how much it's actually slowed down our society. We keep claiming we go ahead, but yet we keep falling back behind. And it's actually kind of troublesome, worrisome, about where things are going in the next 2 years, four
Mm-hmm.
years, 8 years, type of thing. Um, when it's all about, oh, we got to get our people in, our people in, our people in. Well, what about the people that are in the middle that could actually bring compromise to everyone and to the entire nation? Where
Right.
did the compromise go? Because we have no more of that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the reason I wanted to bring you on is because, well, first of all, like fiscally and financially, you're the most American, like as far as like, you know what I'm saying? Like you're the crux of what most of American society is. You're trying to do your own thing, start your own business. You're not only own your own business and you're a business owner, but you're also, do your own thing. You work in the gig economy as well, so you kind of get a different perspective from all aspects. And but yet at the same time, the difference about you is that you pay attention to things where a lot of people don't. They just hear what they hear on CNN or Fox News or whatever, and that just sticks in their brain, and that's what they think is truth or whatnot. And that's one of the reasons I think that we get along so well, is because you have that ability to discern those types of things. So, and it's I always have a good time talking to you because it gives me an interesting perspective that I don't have myself.
Same here.
Like because I'm left to you. I'll definitely left to you. But I feel like we agree on more things than we disagree a lot of
Oh yeah,
times.
like I tell people, it just depends on the issue,
Hmm.
which way I lean. I'm a fence sitter, absolutely. Women's rights, I go left. Equality of every single kind, I go left. Gun control, I go right.
Hmm.
Small government, I go right. It just depends on where we are, is where I vote. And I think that's what makes us be able to be such good friends, because we listen to each other. It's
Hmm.
not, oh well, that's no, we actually listen to each other. Okay, you have some good points, but here's some counterpoints.
Hmm.
Oh, those are good points too. Let me show you some examples. And it's not a, oh, I'm right, you're wrong, it doesn't matter what you're saying.
Yeah, no, that's like having you on was my my first choice when I put that post on Facebook, and people said that they want to, because like I feel like I said, that you have this ability to kind of ride that line on both sides. And I was telling people that in the beginning of the stream here that although that you were fiscally conservative, I saw you as pretty leftist when it comes to social issues and things like that. So
Yep.
so we so and fundamentally those are the things that are, like, I guess more important to me, as far as like equality between people and things like that. The classism is important as well, like fiscal, like classism as far as fiscally and is concerned is important as well, but it's less important than everybody being on an equal footing as far as with their immutable characteristics. And one last thing I wanted to talk to you about, just to kind of mention, just because I don't know where you stand. So I'm a I don't know if I would consider myself an aspiring socialist. I think that it would be a good end game, but I don't think that we're there yet as far as considering like how far we are into capitalism and like kind of backsliding into authoritarianism and things like that. It would be a great world if we could have that, but what would be your ideal economy? What how would you see things working?
Well, I think in our society, I don't think we can ever get away from capitalism. No matter how hard we try, I don't think it would ever be possible. It's just too ingrained into us in the 250 years we've been as a country. We've been a country of, it doesn't matter where you come from, you pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you can do everything. It's one of the reasons we're one of the highest immigration in the world because of the American dream. It doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter what you do. If you come, you can achieve great things here. And I think that's just ingrained not only into our society, but into the world, where
Mm-hmm.
that's what America is. Um, Now, I would definitely would want to see a society where the wage gap is closed. Um, uh, in the different tiers, you've got your high society, you've got your middle class, you've got your lower class. I would like to see those closed a little bit more, actually quite a bit more, where our poverty line is like maybe 5% of the entire nation.
Mm-hmm.
There unfortunately there's always going to be a poverty line. No matter how much you move that poverty line, there's always going to be someone that falls under it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we can, once we get it to 5%, we can work on getting it to 4%. We can work on getting it to 3%, to the point where you know if we can get to that point, I think we become one of the better nations in the world again, where our dollar will be strong, our economy is going to be strong because people are going to be working. We're going to be producing more commerce. Hopefully, we can bring back some of those jobs that we've shipped across seas. We can bring them back here, and go back to now. I'm not saying I'm all American goods, but keep the jobs at home.
Mm-hmm.
Where we raise the wages and we put those people to work doing that at a fair wage. Rather than paying some kid 50 cents an hour or 50 cents a day, in Indonesia or something like that to make our tennis shoes.
Yeah.
Are our tennis shoes going to be more? Absolutely. But are you going to have that extra money because now everyone's working at 15, 20, $25 an hour and can afford more things? Absolutely. So therefore, it's more of a symbiotic type of economy where if we can bring people back, bring the jobs back, increase the wage, make sure everyone's got money to kind of go around, then the businesses can still grow. People, can start saving up money. They can venture on their own businesses like I have.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can grow as a nation, as an economy again, and as socially as well. So as I don't think we can ever reach socialism. I don't think we can ever reach, that type of thing. And I don't know if I ever want to reach that part, where I haven't delved too much into socialism or anything like that. But I think we can do better by leaps and bounds, where society as a whole is benefiting, where even if you're that janitor working, scrubbing the toilets at the local high school, you're still able to afford the a couple of splurge things that you want. You can take that 2 or 3 week vacation with your
Mm-hmm.
family. You don't have to work overnight at the high school and then go work at the grocery store during the day just to pay bills and barely get by. I think we can do a lot better on that aspect, in order to build up our country and our nation as a whole, to bring us back to what we should be and where we were.
Sure. And like so my idea about how to do that necessarily has to do with and this is why the only place that I think one of the reasons that I think government is essential is I think that unchecked, unfettered capitalism tends to be a problem sometimes. So I think if they put some checks and balances back that were taken away during the Reagan era, things like that, that may help a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But also, I think just doing some experimenting within capitalism to see if there's different ways to do things. For instance, I'm a big proponent of worker co-ops. For instance,
Yep.
I don't know if you're familiar with those at all, but
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
more democratized workplace, so that like
Yeah.
the CEOs or the heads of the company are voted upon by the workers themselves, and everything's kind of, you know, kind of moved through them, but they're elected just like elected officials. I think that may
15% of me is okay with that. The other 85% says hell no.
well, we can agree to disagree on that, but I think fundamentally we do agree that like the wage gap is a bit of an issue. So that's something that we definitely need to fix. But hey, I'm gonna move on, man. I got some video games to play. But I loved having you on, man. I'd love to do it again sometime. We'll get maybe deeper
Absolutely,
into
would love to, man.
some talk about the different aspects of socialism or stuff like that too, and
I
socialism
will make
versus
sure I do my
capitalism.
research
All
before
right.
we get to that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, man. Have a good night.
All right, later, brother.
Later. That was awesome. I enjoyed that thoroughly. Um, yeah, yeah. Thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. I love having conversations like that show different aspects of things, and um, I expected it to be a bit more contentious than it was. So that's good. I like having a meaningful conversation, which is really important to me to find common ground with people, and like I said, we agree on a lot of the things that are important to me. So there wouldn't be too much argument there. I do agree that government's corrupt and screwed up, but I think having less of it isn't going to really fix that problem, because the powers that be are still going to be there, kind of in that situation.